So the deal breaker happened at the very end a few mornings ago, early morning. I had gone to sleep about 1 or 2, and it was so cold. I was stoking all 3 fires in the HQ veterans tent, and as usual, someone came in and said, "Colonel, Colonel!" In this particular case, it was the front gate was unguarded. There was nobody there. The elders, just the night before, had me come up with a whole new detail of 3 people on watch at once from midnight to 4 a.m., 4 a.m. to 8, 8 to noon, noon to 4, etc. And we had some hard charging Marines who were willing to stand out there in the cold and stand guard. And every car that came in, searched them for weapons and ask them their intentions, drugs and alcohol, weapons, etc., and then not let them in if they had any of those things. Now, mind you, these are people who live there. These people, this is their land, this is their ancestors' land, and they're coming and going through that gate. And here we are, outsiders, telling them that they can't come and go. So it was a really touchy situation. So I get this emergency report that there's no one at the gate. So I run up to the front gate, and there's a soldier inside sleeping who was not part of the detail that I assigned. And I come in, and he's just slumbering on the floor, and there's no one at the gate, and cars are coming in and out. And I kicked his foot. I said, "On your feet, soldier." And without even opening his eyes, he's like, "Don't kick me." And I felt it triggered a little bit of anger. In the Marine Corps, during wartime, if someone's asleep on duty, they get their throat cut. And that's standard procedure. This asshole wouldn't even acknowledge my presence. And so I persisted. I told him to get on his feet. And in retrospect, I see now why he had the attitude that he did, because as far as he was concerned, he was good to go. The security of Standing Rock were these hired thugs from DAPL who didn't want there to be security, so there wasn't security. At every opportunity, it was sabotage the efforts of the water protectors and sabotage the efforts of the elders and sabotage the efforts of the vets while pocketing cash and wreaking havoc and provoking the police. So this particular jerk, who wasn't even a soldier, he was just someone to... He came there and relieved the other 3 and then went to sleep. And then the car comes up, and I go out there and I stop the car, and it was someone that I had seen driving around earlier. And I asked him, "Are you on patrol?" thinking he was security. And he looks at me like, "No." And then so that car leaves and comes back with a carload of guys. And a couple of them were obviously under the influence of some drugs or alcohol. And there was also rumors of weapons, which was later confirmed that these people were bringing in weapons. So now I'm guarding the gate as a lone person, and these people are trying to bring weapons in, and then other cars are leaving. It was just a clusterfuck. And the guy in the guard shack suddenly started getting on the radio, wreaking havoc, screaming senseless stuff about how the colonel's doing this and the colonel's doing that. And I was the fall guy for lots of people. The vets became the scapegoat for everything that was going down. And in this case, this Mowgli character was just a complete insane asshole in terms of his provocation of an otherwise peaceful situation, making accusations and stirring trouble. And he worked for the security detail, Ocheti Shikoing Security, and he's on the take with them. So he gets on the radio and calls his boss, who was the head guy of security, and 4 or 5 of them come and confront me and surround me. And I'm holding my ground, saying that this is unacceptable. And mind you, I did not understand anything that was going on. All I knew was that the guard shack was left vacant, that the gate was left unguarded, and money was coming in, and weapons were coming in, and unchecked. And meanwhile, this guy is just going off at the mouth. And these 4 warriors were veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. A couple of them are Marines, and these guys are killers, and they're badass. And they informed me that their security and that I can go now. I decided to take advantage of that opportunity to get out of there. I go back to HQ, settle in for a moment, gather my thoughts, and then go decide to find my company commander and ask him what happened to the security detail. I go to the other veterans tent, and all the vets are gone. They had bugged out early in the morning. And then I found out that the other veterans were gone, that there had been a mass exodus in the middle of the night. That left me confused and angered and uncertain what to do next. And at crossroads like this, I will tune in and I'll say, hey, Great Spirit, what's best to do? And Spirit's like, time to go. I'm like, no, I want to stay. What's best, go or stay? Intuition says go. So I wrestled with that a while, but the elders had finally called a meeting at the main dome, which was space enough for hundreds of people and reasonably warm. The elders had called a gathering, and the elders had asked me to go secure the gathering space, and there's normally a meeting in there. These people called decolonization. It's like it's a rainbow / hippie / activist type of meeting. And as much as I love hippies and activists and environmentalists, there is a rogue element with them as well that are as bad as any terrorist. There's like 1 in 100 that's just real criminal. And so they're agitating as well. And they did not like the fact that the vets had a meeting in their space, nor did they like that the elders were calling a meeting in their space. So the elders told me to kick everybody out so that the elders could sit and have a talking circle. Well, these colonization people didn't want to go, and the elders and I had no choice but to wait for them to finish, which took a painfully long time. So by the time their meeting was over, so much had changed. So many hundreds or even thousands of people had evacuated camp. And the elders asked me what I was going to do, and I just had to tell them that I had to go, which was extremely painful and difficult because simultaneously I had already gotten the intel that as soon as the vets leave, the police are going to raid. So these sweet, wise, incredible elders and all these dedicated activists and water protectors and veterans who really care were being abandoned and betrayed. And I was the highest ranking on site, so I kind of was like scapegoat for all of it. And I really felt like I was betraying them and abandoning them and mission failure at a really deep, fundamental level. I consulted with the elders, and I told them the Great Spirit said it's time for me to go, and they were sad about it, and I was sad about it. And then security for the Ocheti Shikoing, the leader of which was invited to attend the council, but he didn't come. He sent 4 or 5 of his men. And they surrounded me at the head of the dome, and it was not malicious. They were curious. They were curious who I was and what my intentions were. And I began to feel from them a form of camaraderie because on one level I really relate to what they were doing. They were soldiers in a war zone. They wanted to fight. They wanted to antagonize. They wanted to engage. They wanted some conflict. It's a game to them. And they're having fun with it. And they're making good money. Anyway, the story goes on and on and on, and it's going to come out more in the form of text in a book with pictures. But for now, I just wanted to express some of these things that were on the forefront of my mind and at the edges of a wounded heart. All's well that ends well. And it was, and also one of the elders told me that 2 elderly women had died the night before. They had fallen and frozen to death, and nobody seemed to care. The people that I tell about it, their heart breaks, they say, but there's so much attention on the chaos that so many things are slipping through the cracks. And the fact that elders didn't have a place to sleep, and the fact that elders died and froze to death without help, is completely unacceptable. So in the future, when there are actions like this, there needs to be leadership, there needs to be organization, and there needs to be a clear objective, one that actually has an end game result, not just stopping the pipeline. I asked a lot of people, I asked the elders, I asked the vets, I asked the protectors, I'm like, what's the objective? And they're like, stop the pipeline. We learned from Mother Teresa that that does not work. You don't stop things, you don't anti this or protest that. It doesn't work. It just agitates, it just perpetuates the conflict. There's got to be a viable solution that's holistic, that's in the positive, such as we innovate renewable technology. We learn to be more self-sufficient as an eco-village. We listen to our elders. We coordinate and organize and execute according to a simple plan. But none of that was in place. So instead it was just controlled chaos, and miraculous that more people did not die. So this is just the beginning. There are actions like this going on all around the world. And the success of the Standing Rock pipeline project being stopped is Joyce going to bring to light other projects just like it. One great positive outcome of all this is that the Natural Guard of the New Earth Army is alive, and people all over the world are embracing the Natural Guard as a way that they can make a difference for this earth and for this world and for the people, for the environment. Military, intelligence people, common citizens coming together under the banner of the Natural Guard for the New Earth Army to unite the militaries of the world towards service to the planet with the one-word mission of paradise. That's it.